Everybody keeps saying Drake ran 2025 on Apple Music, but nobody actually checked the list. Today, I saw so many blogs and headlines claiming that Drake was the top most streamed artist on Apple Music in 2025, and I thought, okay. I even saw an article on the Complex website where they wrote an entire piece about how so many of Drake's songs were in Apple Music's top 100. So I said to myself, let me go look at the list. When I went and looked at the list, I could not have been more surprised. First of all, Drake doesn't appear on the list until number 13. Then it goes from number 31 to number 36, which I believe is Wait For You by Future and Thames. Drake's other 5 songs, because he had a total of 8, do not show back up on the list again until number 87. I'm giving you that information first because I want you to fully understand the bigger picture before anything else. Kendrick Lamar didn't just appear on Apple Music's top 100 songs of 2025. He showed up in a major way. He had a total of 10 songs on the list, and on top of that, he had 5 songs in the top 25, which is more than any other artist across any genre. Let me say that again because that's important. Kendrick had the most songs in the top 25 out of everyone. That shows impact. That shows consistency. That shows demand. And when you actually look at the placements, it makes even more of a statement. Luther came in at number 2. Not Like Us landed at number 4. 30 for 30 came in at number 10. TV Off was right behind it at number 11. Squabble Up was sitting strong at number 22. Outside the top 25, he still continued to dominate the list. Like That at number 35. All the Stars at number 41. Goosebumps at number 53. Money Trees at number 56. And Peekaboo holding spot at number 70. So this isn't just a moment. This isn't just one song going viral. This is a body of work still performing at a high level. Songs from different eras, different albums, different sounds, all still being played heavily and consistently enough to make one of the most competitive charts in streaming. That's dominance in a real way. Now, once I saw that, I went and looked at the number 1 song on the list, which was by Rosé and Bruno Mars. And because I was curious, I did a little more digging. That song actually never reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Now, it did perform extremely well on global Apple Music charts. And that tells me something important, too. There are different types of success in music today. Domestic charts, international charts, platform-based charts. And sometimes a song can dominate on one platform globally, but not necessarily have the same impact on US radio or across all formats combined. And this is where understanding how charts work really matters. Platforms like Apple Music and Spotify are stream-based, and streams can be highly influenced by playlist placements, algorithm boosts, regional popularity, fan campaigns, label marketing, and even paid promotions. I'm not accusing anyone of doing anything illegal here, but let's be real. Money and strategy absolutely impact visibility on streaming platforms. Labels spend big budgets to get songs in front of listeners. Billboard, on the other hand, is much harder to influence because it doesn't rely on just one metric. Billboard combines streams, digital sales, physical sales, and radio play. All of those elements together determine chart position. So even if a song is being heavily streamed, that alone doesn't guarantee a number 1 on Billboard. People still have to go out and purchase the song, request on radio, and support it in ways that go beyond just hitting replay. That's why I say no. You can't just easily buy a Billboard number 1 in the same way that charts based solely on streams can be influenced by heavy promotion. Billboard requires multiple layers of real, measurable support. And that's exactly why what Kendrick did here matters so much. Because with fewer songs in his overall catalog than some other artists, with less saturation, and without a new album campaign attached to every song on the list, he still managed to place 10 tracks in the top 105 in the top 25. That doesn't happen by accident. That doesn't happen because of hype. That happens because people are choosing to press play. And that's the difference. When I saw all of this, I said, this is very interesting, because you would think that Kendrick did not have an awesome year. I'm not going to say that nobody mentioned Kendrick, because that wouldn't be true. I actually did see an article from Variety, which is a major trade publication for TV and film. They highlighted Kendrick in the headline right alongside Bruno Mars. So, yes, there were some outlets that gave him that recognition, and that part is fair. But the real issue comes when we talk about which platforms shape public perception the most. When it comes to sites like Complex, which I would argue get copied, screenshotted, and reposted by more blogs and accounts than Variety does, it makes a huge difference. Those are the headlines most people see. So when people start seeing headlines saying Drake is the most streamed artist of 2025, the automatic response is, wait, what about Kendrick? Is Kendrick not doing as well? Did Kendrick fall off? And that conclusion could not be further from the truth. It lines up perfectly with the narrative and the propaganda that certain platforms are pushing. Because here's the reality. Kendrick still dominated overall on Apple Music's Top 100 chart. He didn't just appear, he made a statement. Let me tell you something else that I noticed when I actually looked at the list. Nokia was sitting at number 13. And Somebody Loves You, which I believe came from For All the Dogs / Scary Hours / or Sexy Song for You, was around number 31. Those were the only two relatively newer Drake songs that showed up on the entire chart. Most of the Drake songs on that list, outside of that Future song, which is also old, were not new at all. They were from his older catalog. That means when they use those flashy headlines and say, Drake was the most streamed artist, what they're really saying is that his back catalog is still generating numbers. And don't get me wrong, that is still impressive in a way. Longevity matters. A strong catalog matters. But let's not pretend this is because of new impact, new dominance, or new cultural moments. And this is exactly where the conversation of quality versus quantity comes in. Of course, it's easier to rack up the most total streams when you have 1,000 songs in rotation compared to an artist who has maybe 300 songs total. If one artist simply exists in more playlists, in more eras, in more features, the math is already in their favor. But here's the part people keep skipping over. If the artist with 300 songs still has more songs charting in the top 25 than the artist with 1,000 songs, that tells you something important. It tells you that when people are actually choosing what to play right now, they're choosing quality over quantity. They're choosing impact over volume. They're choosing intention over oversaturation. At the end of the day, the very end of the day, people always return to quality over quantity, no matter how much the numbers are twisted. And I do want to bring up one more thing that I find a little sketchy. It's interesting how the Rose and Bruno Mars song performed better on Apple Music than Luther, yet it never even touched number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. That doesn't automatically mean anything shady, but it does make me pause. Maybe it's a global streaming situation. Maybe that record has more international appeal. Maybe it just performs better in specific regions or on specific platforms. But still, when you start lining these things up, questions naturally start to form. Now, let's go back to the actual facts that really matter. The part the headlines seem to dance around. Kendrick had 10 songs on that Apple Music Top 100 list. He had 5 songs in the top 25. That is more than any other artist in any genre on the entire list. That isn't an opinion. That's data. So, personally, I need to start seeing more accurate headlines. I need to see more honesty in the reporting. I need to see headlines saying, Kendrick Lamar dominates Apple Music Top 100. Kendrick holds the most top 25 placements. Kendrick leads a chart in impact per song. Because that's what actually happened. But anyway, this is my TED Talk. This is everything I wanted to say. Don't fall into the propaganda. Don't fall for the manipulated framing. Actually read the lists. Actually analyze the data. Look past who they want you to think is winning. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think about the list itself? What do you think about Drake being labeled the most streamed artist when it's mainly his old catalog doing the heavy lifting? And how do you feel about Kendrick having 10 songs on the list and 5 in the top 25, the most of any other artist? Let me know what you think in the comments.